the topic for today was to focus on the future of blockchain. Now, I know that that's a challenging thing. I mean, how do you even, predict the future or research the possibilities in the future? And so I'd really like to get your thoughts on that. And I know you've prepared a couple of slides that would help us to sort of think through that. So maybe you could walk us through this and just give us what your thoughts are.
Yeah, Mark, do you know this saying, it's hard to make predictions, especially about the future?
Yeah, no, that's exactly correct, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a very famous one. I'm not sure, Oscar Wilde, maybe Yogi Berra, or a Danish proverb, but I did some research on predictions in the past, and I always figured it's really hard if just one person comes around and says, I'm going to tell you the future. And there is, in fact, a technique in academia and also in the industry to do that. And coincidentally, I wrote a paper about blockchain scenarios for Bitcoin, because you cannot predict blockchain. It's much too complex. Just take one use case or the other and then make predictions about the future. And what scenario technique basically does, it compiles knowledge from different people, and then you can come up with the most positive thing that can happen and the most negative, and you can create trend scenarios. So I'm always very hesitant that to say that I know what's the future going to be, but the best way to do this is to ask many people and to use scenario technique to come up with something. And again, if anyone is interested, I'm always happy to share my publications. And if anyone wants to see what I wrote on the future of Bitcoin, what that could potentially be, that's an open access journal. If you could move on to the next slide. Another very important thing I need to clarify, if somebody tunes in for the first time, and hopefully not, because your broadcast is really a treasure trove of information. But if somebody doesn't know what blockchain is, and he or she might be really confused, because we are talking about so many different use cases. On the left, you will see consumers or travelers making payments or participating in loyalty programs. So here we have B2C applications. Then on the right, something you covered in this broadcast is traffic management, data from airplanes, for example. Then we have digital identity, giving travelers the opportunity to check in. And then we have supply chain management. And on top of that, you can use blockchain to make investments. So if somebody hears this for the first time here, she says, what's this weird thing that's called blockchain? And in fact, there is no one blockchain solution. Blockchain is a collection of very complex technologies under the hood. And there are many different blockchain solutions. So if we talk about the future, we need to clearly differentiate which kind of use case we are discussing. So on the next slide, you will see 3 different perspectives. So we can talk about the technology. And of course, I'm going to give you my opinion saying where it's going to evolve. But we should not forget legislation, because we can come up with a great use case, but then maybe it's illegal. We found out it's just not possible because it's against the law. Or we always can come up with some nice, let's say, supply chain use cases for blockchain, and then we figure out it's not good for some business partners. So there are some showstoppers here, and we always need to consider different perspectives when making scenarios of future predictions. And this is something that I wanted to mention right in the beginning. So we need to be focused and make it clear what kind of use case, what kind of blockchain technology, and what kind of perspective we are using.
Yeah, Horst, I really, when we had some early conversations, it really hit home to me when you said that, because, you told me, you said, we can't use the term Web3 and generically blockchain to say everything, okay? Because when you're looking at blockchain and finance and the regulatory agencies and how the SEC in the US, regulates that, and we look at, aviation, and we look at maybe manufacturers, or we look at small businesses, everything is so diverse, and the use cases and the requirements are so diverse that, we find ourselves lumping all that into one category, saying blockchain. And then what you're saying is, wow, that's really hard, because if you do that, it's almost impossible now to predict the future outcome of every one of those paths at that point.
Definitely. That's my point. So if you ask me, will blockchain help to increase revenue? Then I'm going to ask you, what kind of blockchain solution are you talking about? Are you talking about loyalty? And you discussed NFTs many times in this broadcast. Or are you talking about some supply chain solution, which is completely different? So let's make it clear what we are talking about. And this is also important for the people out there to understand there are many different blockchain solutions.